evening, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Gersnet Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Graham, joined here this evening by Colin Armstrong and Gary Valentine. And I'll make my debut tonight as a host, and I think we've got a good episode to start us off with. Just before we start, just need to introduce you with a couple of things. This is, of course, the Gersnet Independent Rangers podcast, made for fans. Christ, I'm already getting mixed up. By fans, and the content is free. Also, as well, just to let you know that you can visit us over on the forum at www.gersnet.co.uk. And also, as well, just a little word from our sponsors, Zenith Coins, who are the official Rangers Club coin copy. Their coins, each gold coin has a unique serial number engraved on the outer rim, and it comes complete with a Rangers presentation box and certificate of authenticity. And you can join Rangers legends and fellow Rangers fans like Alan McCoy, Derek Johnson, Marvin Andrews, Tom Stoltman, the famous chef Gordon Ramsay, to name a few, and own your official Rangers Club coin. And just to let you know, as a wee added bonus, you can get 10% off your purchase by using the code GN10. So we'll go right into it. Colin, start off with you. How are you doing this weekend?
I've had better weekends, as I said. It started off well. My boy was playing through in Bonnyrigg on Friday night there, and they got a good result. They were 2-0 down at half time, 1-4-2, and they got a goal, and they played quite well, so he was quite chuffed. So it was all looking rosy at that point. But yesterday was just a bit of a shit show, really, wasn't it? It was pretty poor from the get-go, really. I mean, I know we'll go on and talk about Willie Collum and all the rest of it, but I mean, it's a couple of huge mistakes that have had an impact on the game, but I'm having to start to get real concerns about how slow and sluggish and how poor the tempo is within this team this season. I mean, you would have to say it's been a poor start to the season, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you on many points there. Our other guest today is Mr. Gary Valentine. How are you this evening, Gary?
Not bad, Craig. It's nice to meet you.
You as well. This is the first time that we've had the pleasure of meeting each other on our podcast, so let's hope it all runs smoothly from here on in. That would be a positive. But as I say, big show, a lot to talk about. We'll just jump right in. And Colin, we'll start with you. Simple question. Willie Collum, do you think he cost us that game yesterday?
I mean, it's hard to say. You would have to argue probably. Hibs had got themselves back into it with the equaliser. We went 2-1 up. I think at that point, we looked fairly comfortable. We were controlling possession. You can't deny it's a pivotal moment in proceedings. But I thought we coped with 10 men pretty well. We kept possession okay at times. Going down to 9, just killed it. I was a wee bit annoyed at Rangers at the fact that our tactics when we went down to 9 just seemed to be hoof it up the park and let them come at us. We didn't seem at any point to try and keep possession, and I was a wee bit surprised at the subs. When we were down to 9, I thought we might have kept Kent on just as an out ball, but 2 huge mistakes and a lack of consistency as well. When you look at the foul by, was it Henderson in the first half, which is almost identical on Lundstrom, arguably worse because it's further up the park, it's closer to their goal, and then as I said, almost identical tackle in the second half of Lundstrom, and he produces a red card, and it beggars belief really how he got to that point and the urgency in which he done it. I agree with Kenny Miller. It looked like he couldn't send it off quickly enough. You know what I mean? I think a couple of the Hibs players' reaction as OTT as well, including our good friend Porteous. As for the second one, annoyed at Morelos because he just shouldn't do that. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be raising his hands like that. I don't think it's a red, I have to say. It's more a kind of, it's not an elbow. You kind of slap somebody that sort of tips his fingers. I've seen stuff like that before, and it's not even been a booking or maybe a yellow. I think what Andy Walker said yesterday is maybe right. Morelos' reputation goes before him, and that's maybe influenced his decision, but it's still wrong. And that's the one I think that killed us. That's the one that changed the game. For that point on, what was it? It was like 20, 15 minutes to go at that point. We're down to 9. It's a big ask then. I mean, even although it was 2-3 minutes into injury time when Hibs got the equaliser, I was fearing that they were going to get the winner, because it literally was just wave after wave. And as I said, I was a wee bit frustrated at Rangers, because when we had possession, there was a couple of times when we had possession when it looked like we could keep it, even just 3, 4, 5 passes before we hump it up the park. The minute any Rangers player got it, they just hoofed it and basically said, right, come again. And I just felt we were going to crack it at some point, and we did. So yeah, it's really, really poor. Excuse me. When you look at what's happened today at Celtic Park as well, our other friend Kevin Clancy. I was looking at the stats. It's like, I think Hearts had 12 fouls, Celtic had 11. Celtic had no bookings. Hearts had 5 and 2 sends off. And these things are pivotal. But one thing I will say, that take Collum's out of the equation. Rangers were poor yesterday, and we've started this season poorly, in my opinion. And if we play better and we put the game to bed sooner, we can go down to 9 men and we'll still get the 3 points. I think there's problems in this Rangers team at the moment, and we need to address them pretty sharpish, I think.
Yeah, you make a good few points there, Colin. I think in terms of both decisions, I haven't really seen anyone that can sort of legislate for that Lundstrom red card. It's not a red card in a million years. It's a booking. You see those fouls every single game of football.
It's a professional foul. He's just he's essentially he's stopping the breakaway. Yeah. He's obviously looked at the situation and thought, too many players are out of position. They've got a chance. We'll just bring them down. It wasn't violent. It wasn't over the ball or over the knee or anything like that. It looked to me like he just essentially slid in, clipped his heels, brought him down. How Colum has got a red card out of that is staggering.
Exactly. I think the rules are for the red card that either needs to be denying a goal scoring opportunity with no attempt to play the ball or violent conduct. And, well, it certainly wasn't violent conduct, and I don't think it was a goal scoring opportunity that was denied either. So, no. As I saw, and I know you made reference to I think it was Henderson's challenge earlier. If anything, forget even the position up in the pitch that makes it a wee bit more sort of dangerous. I think the motion that Henderson went in, it looked almost as if they went into scissor. With his legs, which could potentially be more dangerous as well. Now, I don't think that was a sending off. I think that was a booting as well. But at the same time, it's like all you look for is consistency, and it doesn't seem like we've got it. The second red, Morelos's, I felt at the time, I was annoyed at the referee, probably mostly thinking of just because of what happened with Lundstrom earlier, and that's obviously got a part to play in how you feel. I think looking back on it, I think if I had my own way, I still wouldn't think it's a red card, but it's one of those ones now in modern football where as soon as you put your hand up and move it towards your opponent's face or anywhere near there, regardless of if you take him out completely or if you touch him a wee bit, the referee's always going to give a red card, I think. I
think Morelos has to take some responsibility here, though. I'm not blaming Morelos. I don't think it's a red card. However, given the amount of, he's been sent off a few times up here, and a lot of them were softish. So he should know that. He's a seasoned pro now. He should know that he probably is refereed to a different standard. Referees are going to hammer him for daft things like that. So he shouldn't do it. There was no need to do it. That's the thing. It was needless. So even although I think Colum again has got it wrong and it's a terrible decision, I think Morelos needs to look at himself and say, well, why did I do that? It's just, he knows what referees up here are like. He's been on the receiving end of them on more than one occasion in the past. Just don't do it. If he doesn't do it, there's no an issue.
Yeah, no, you make a good few points here. Gary, coming over to you now. An interesting one here is VAR. Because I don't know if you watched the Newcastle Man City game earlier today. It was a great game for each, but we've seen a very, very similar challenge that Lundstrom made yesterday. And the referee, it was like Willie Collum was the ref again because he brandished the red card to the Newcastle player. I can't remember who it was, unfortunately, straight away. And then it went to VAR. And magically, VAR overturned the decision because the referee had a chance to look at it again. And he said, you know what, I've got it wrong. So he can make that decision again. Do you think that that's something that we need in now, VAR? Obviously, it's been introduced, I think, after the World Cup, but do you think we need it in now in Scotland?
Yeah, it should have been introduced at the start of the season. I think if there's anything that could sum Scottish football up, it's that we decide to bring in VAR and then bring it in halfway through a season. And potentially we've already lost a goal with Colak at Livingston that was onside, and then there's that yesterday. So these things will add up, and then we're expected to believe that they're going to even themselves out over time. But yeah, I'd love to know the explanation for why VAR isn't in at the start of the season, and we've got to wait to after the World Cup. It's just blows my mind that we're doing that.
Yeah, as you say, Gary, it is sort of typical Scottish football. I think even the Morelos one yesterday, what kind of concerned me most about Colin was the sort of speed in which he gave that red card. I mean, I know that you can obviously consult his assistant, although I don't think he did it. And the
linesman was flagging straight away. I've watched the highlights before we came on. The linesman was going crazy with the flag. But it's the thing with Morelos, like, how many times has he got to let us down? He's not a stupid laddie anymore. He's been up here long enough at 5-6 years. He should be one of the more experienced players in their squad. And for me, he's just let us down again, especially already being at 10 men. It's not just once he's tried to slap him or whatever, it's twice. And I just couldn't believe I was seeing that he'd done it, and he'd kind of laughing as he's walking off and everything, as if he's been hard done by. You didn't lift your hands. But we can all say that it's harsh or whatever, but they know the rules. If you lift your hands and you make contact, you're off the park. The one for Lindstrom, I totally agree with you. That was you see in every single game of football, at least once, a professional foul, players will go up, hands up, take their booting and get back into position. And for him to get a red card for that just was outrageous. The only, I'll say, to defend Colum, see, because he flicked his leg up. I don't know if he's maybe seen it from another angle and thought that he's taken
a few weeks ago. I think he's came back from his injury. I don't think he's looked in the best shape. Understand he's been out injured for a while, but my other argument to that would be, well, look at Haji, who's been out for longer with a more dangerous injury. And if you look at what he's doing on Instagram, on YouTube, the guy's an absolute tank. So how Morelos can sort of, it seems anyway, be fit enough to come back in when he's needed, especially at this point, that's the first thing that I don't understand. Then I think yesterday we've seen the signs of the old Morelos, the petulance, as you said. He's not just done it once, he's done it twice. Do you think that, I don't know, maybe he's trying to not be here anymore? Do you think he's going to sign that new contract? Because to me, his actions yesterday, it kind of says to me, well, he doesn't really care anymore. That's just my opinion on it, but I don't know if you think the same.
In my opinion, I think Morelos just seems to be I don't want to say selfish player, but he's obviously got a career plan there with the talent he's got, and whether it is to Spain or whatever. So I think that I think it would be good for everybody if Morelos was to leave and we get some money in. We brought him in for quite a cheap fee. If we could get rid of him, get some money in, because we could go over this in the 5-6 years, how many times he's let us down. He's done some great things. I always say to my friends, when he smiles, we all smile, because some of the goals he's scored, especially in Europe, has been absolutely brilliant. But at this moment, he's still our main striker, the one that we look to get our goals. And just, if he's not interested, it just doesn't do it. And we didn't, obviously, we don't get the benefit of that. So we need somebody that's wanting to play for Rangers, that's wanting to get 100% every game. And even for the minute he signed, I don't think he's been that guy.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I can't disagree really with what you're saying there. The thing that sort of confuses me mostly about the Morelos yesterday is because I think certainly since the 55 season, that petulance hasn't really been there. Because we all remember him having that great first half to 1920. And then when we came back from Dubai, he wasn't showing up and stuff like that. He was coming back late from international duty. Probably cost us at Tynecastle, or contributed to it anyway in the Scottish Cup. And then it seemed like he got a fresh start under Gerrard with that lockdown season. And I thought last season as well, especially when Gio came in, his discipline, his fit, everything seemed to be sort of top drawer and where he needed to be. And Colin, we've obviously discussed Morelos' new contract there. Ryan Kent, we may as well just discuss him for a wee bit with yourself as well. You mentioned him earlier saying that you thought we could have kept one for an outball. I mean, I wouldn't have necessarily kept him on for an outball, but I think we should have kept someone on for an outball anyway. I don't think he started this season anywhere near the level that he can. I think obviously he's just coming back from a wee injury, which might have explained his performance midweek, but it wasn't that great. But I think he should have been on it yesterday. He wasn't. And to me, Kent and Morelos, they're in a very, very similar boat now. They've got a year left in their contract. Rangers have got to make a decision now in the next week or so. Do you give these guys new contracts? Do you sell them for, I don't know, 10 million maybe, if you would get that with a year left with A2? Or do you keep them for the rest of the season and lose them on a free? Now, personally, I wouldn't mind keeping them for another season and losing them on a free, as long as you're going to get the best out of them this season. Because if we win the league this year, because of A2, we qualify for the Champions League, 40 million quid in the bank, which is obviously more than the 10 million quid you're going to get for them just now. So I don't know what your thoughts on Ken Arkle in terms of that as well.
I mean, with regards to Morelos, I mean, he has let us down. There's no doubt about it. Sporadically throughout his Rangers career, I don't think you can deny that. You also have to say that he's done a lot of good for us as well. Scored a lot of vital goals, particularly in Europe. I think that was it the second season we were in the Europa League. He was scoring against Feyenoord and Porto, and at that point, that's probably the peak years of his Rangers career. I thought he was unplayable at that point, but there's no doubt about it. There's been a recurrent theme of petulance. It had kind of disappeared from his game for a bit there, but it came back yesterday. He disappears for a bit. He goes back to Colombia, comes back a stone overweight. There's no doubt you can question his professionalism, but I would still be a wee bit wary of writing him off. I think he's shown time and again that he can score goals for Rangers and at this level and in Europe as well. But his professionalism does piss me off at times, although I did find it ironic that Chris Boyd was having a go at him yesterday, because he's another guy that wasn't exactly professional and looked after himself in the right way. So, I mean, it's difficult. It's, I think we show like for the first time he's got someone who's going to push him. I know he's been getting a bit of criticism and all the rest of it for some supporters, but four goals in 4 games there, and that's with some pretty shit service, to be honest with you. The service that he's been getting has been pretty poor. So you're hoping that will maybe spark Morelos into life, and he'll start training properly, looking after himself, and get himself in the best position to get back into the team and keep his place. We'll just have to wait and see. Ryan Kent is bugging me at the moment. I must admit, he was annoying me yesterday. His decision making yesterday was atrocious. There was that one in the first half where he went through 3 guys as if they weren't there. He just quick step over, past the 3 of them, and the shot's on. But he decides to take another touch and run into traffic. And the whole thing with Lundstrom getting sent off comes for Ryan Kent. Yeah. He's got the ball. Borna goes in the overlap. It's the easy ball we give him, and that's where the goal came from. That's where Lawrence's goal came from. Something similar. Kent on the ball, everyone going to Kent, Borna going on the overlap. Just pass it to him. But no, Kent runs back in the way, runs into traffic, gets the ball taken off him, Hibs break, and Lundstrom commits a foul, and Colum does what he does. So with Ryan Kent, 7 million we paid for him. And there's no doubt about it, he's a great player. Probably one of the better players at Ibrox. I don't think you can deny that. But in terms of his numbers, in terms of what we get out of him, I know he occupies defenders, and defensively, I mean, he puts a shift in. He does a lot defensively, which I think goes unrecognised at times. But in terms of assists and goals and stuff like that, I do think we need more out of him. I really do. And yesterday was a prime example of that. I think we're not getting enough in terms of assists and goals. I mean, one, he doesn't have a shot. He had 2 chances yesterday. One, he doesn't have a shot at all because he takes that extra touch. And he had another opportunity and he just sort of really lazy, kind of sort of tried to curl it and over the bar. And for a player of his quality, I think you need more. I really do. I think we need more out of him. When you look at what Celtic get out of Jota and stuff like that, that's what we should be getting out of Ryan Kent. We got that this season with 155, but I would have to say I don't think he done it consistently enough last season. And so far this season, I know he's had his injury and stuff like that, but so far this season, I would say the same again. And I just wonder. I'm starting to wonder if there's an issue with the two Ryans. Under Gerrard, it was pretty obvious that Kent was one of Steven Gerrard's main men, and so was Ryan Jack. He gushed about them in press conferences. They're my main men, blah, 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 blah. I don't think Gio's like that. I don't think Gio's quite as emotional, and I don't think he would maybe give the same sort of love, for want of a better phrase, arm round the shoulder and all that kind of thing, to try and big these players up. And I just wonder if maybe that's having an impact, because I think Ryan Jack has looked off it as well. I thought he was not too bad in the second half yesterday, but in the first half he looked miles off it, I thought. And I just wonder if it's down to the relationship they have with Gio. I'm not saying that they have a bad relationship, but they're maybe not getting the same sort of praise and sort of gushingness, because Gerrard, it was him that brought Ryan Kent to the club, 7 million, and we all know what he was like with Ryan Jack, and I think Ryan Jack played his best football under Steven Gerrard. So I just wonder if the fact that Gio's there and they're not getting the same sort of levels of appreciation, that it's maybe impacting on their performances, because I think both of them are not hitting the levels that we know they can hit.
No, I think you're right there, Colin, and I've not really actually thought about it. It's an interesting point you make about the sort of difference in relationship between the two different managers and those players in particular. And certainly on Ryan Jack, we'll come on later on to another midfielder who maybe hasn't hit the heights this season as well later on. But now we'll sort of move on just to the actual team and the display as a whole. Gary, one thing that I'm getting quite concerned about now, and Colin touched on it earlier, is I really don't know what this Rangers team's style of play is, what our system is, what it is we're wanting to do, because we seem to change it pretty much every single game, not just in terms of personnel, but in terms of systems. Now, I think on the one hand, it is good that you can be tactically fluid, and especially during a game, because, you obviously don't want your opponent to know what you're doing. It is a bit like a game of chess, and I think Gio actually used that word on Tuesday after the PSV game to say that the game was a little bit like a game of chess. It's one thing having a game of chess against PSV in the Champions League. It's another thing having a game of chess against Hibs and St Johnstone and North and blah, 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 blah. I just think sometimes it overanalyses things a bit too much. Kenny Miller, watched an interview with him recently, and he made a very good point about Walter Smith. He went, Walter would do the tactical stuff, the analysis, blah, 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 like proper in-depth stuff when you were playing a big European game or Celtic. He went, if it was just a league game, he would trust the players to go out and do their job because they're professional, they're great players, they're on so much money, they're better than any other team in that league. Just go for it and stop worrying about tactics, etc., etc. So what's kind of your thoughts on that then, Gary? Do you think he overanalyses things a bit too much?
Yeah, I've never actually thought about it until we see it on the agenda today, but I think you've got an absolute cracking point. It could be a case that they're taking these teams too serious when they probably didn't need to overcomplicate it like that. Like, see, like when Van Bronckhorst came in, like, it was my absolute top candidate. You'd think for the career he had with, like, even Rangers at the time the football we were playing, and Arsenal under Wenger, and going to Barcelona, that kind of on the cusp of that great team that was really successful, that Dutch team as well, and mixed with the kind of youth football and everything that Holland's famous for, Barcelona's famous for. You were just thinking, if we can get some of that, that's for me, like, hey, but I just didn't see what he's bringing to us. I really don't. Like, it's slow. It's hard work sometimes to watch it. And in Europe, it's different because that's kind of the way European football is. But in Scotland, it's blood and snotters. It's guys getting in your face and and it is sometimes two banks of five you've got to break down. And I remember one of the pods we done when I think Van Bronckhorst just got the job. A guy called him the horseshoe because they just keep going round and back that way and back that way, and that's what it's like. I just want to see him play strongest team, and as you say, just say go for it. And like on paper, we've got better players than everybody, arguably, except for Celtic. So we should be able to just blow all these teams out the water. So we maybe should just stop over analysing things, maybe trying things that just there's no need to try. At the end of the day, we should just be going in to win. And it's kind of like the level he's played at, you'd think he'd be able to do that, but it's very frustrating to watch.
No, it is at times, and I think a big issue with us this season is that, you know, we haven't had that one standout performance. Now, I was saying this last Saturday after the St Johnstone game. Obviously, we won 4-0. I think that's the first time since Giles came in that we've won a league game by 4 goals or more. Off the top of my head, anyway. I mean, if someone in the comments wants to correct me, I'll be gladly corrected. But I think that is the case, and it's just this whole not killing teams off. You know, we don't seem to start games well. Now we don't seem to even start second halves of games well. It's like, to me, Gary, it seems like we're not a team that plays good, like, in game in terms of all the game. We seem to be a team that's good in spells. Now, in fairness, when we are good in those spells, you know, we seem to be doing it. Like we probably had our best spell right after Hibs equalised, and obviously that led to the goal, which was a cracking goal, by the way. Great ball in by Barisic, and Lawrence is there again. But it just seems to me that, you know, but you genuinely don't know what his style of play is. I mean, we know, for example, he said last week that he wouldn't start Chilwell and Morelos up front. I mean, is that something that you might like to see him do in the future? I know we've obviously had our words about Morelos, but maybe if it's not him, but like even another striker, maybe just go with 2 up front.
I'm not sure actually, because I still like the 4-3-3 because I believe that's what it should be. You've effectively got 3 strikers, and if your ball's coming for the right, you've got the other 2, and if it's coming for the left, the right winger should be coming at the back post. So I don't think the formation is a problem. I think it's just because the whole point of 4-3-3 is that it can change mid game, and it can fullbacks can go up and things like that. And we always say that the kind of argument at the work about them playing Sands and things like that. The reason they play guys like Sands who are comfy on the ball is so they can move up the park. And Rangers effectively play one centre half, and that's it's the modern way to play. I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, can 2 up front," and things like that, as if you're only playing one striker, like Walter Smith done in Europe with Kenny Miller or Dashville or something like that. That's not the way we play. We're a good team, and can you seen that goal we scored on Tuesday? The goal that was a great build up to the goal, and then the goal we scored yesterday, as you said, was great again. But then we've just got this like really good ability to just shoot ourselves in the foot, and it's not because we get carved open; it's because of mistakes we make. Like if you see that the first goal that Hibs scored yesterday, borderline offside, possibly VAR could have ruled that out. But there was a half-arse challenge for Matondo, Barisic and Sands, watching a guy right in the middle of them who goes and slots it away. It's even the goal against PSV, and it was like miss hits to try and clear it and things like that. And you're just like, he goes on about keeping the 0, but I've never seen any evidence that this is actually a plan that we've got, because we've got such a soft centre. And I don't know if he's agreeing with me, but as soon as that 5 minutes additional time got put up yesterday, I was just like, 93 minutes, they've got to score, last kick of the ball. And it happened. And we've seen this film so many times, and we didn't seem to change the style. It's just the same stuff all the time. When we're great, we're great. But when we're shit, and it's really, really annoying.
Mm-hmm. No, there doesn't seem to be in between there. No. Colin, coming on to you, I mean, as Gary said there, it was like as soon as it got into the 90 minutes of 5 added on, there was a sense of inevitability about what was going to happen, because, as he said, we've seen this so many times last season. Yeah. I know obviously you're you're not impressed with some of the managers and with his style basically and how we're playing. So I'll just hand the floor over to you for.
Yeah, I don't want to be too hard on Gio because it's he's not even been there a year yet. But yeah, there's concerns. I mean, he got us to a European final, and one thing I will say, he has shown, in my opinion, that he's tactically astute, especially in Europe. He kind of knows what he's doing. He has that fluidity in terms of changing the system, and I think some of his substitutes have been pretty good as well. But we were inconsistent in the league with Gio last season, and I think the feeling was, once he gets his players in, he'll be able to put over his own sort of system. This is his first pre-season. Give some teams too much respect. I don't think we need to go into every game with two holding midfielders. I think that cripples us at times. I think that we're too, as I said earlier on, the tempo's too slow. I felt Rangers played that first half, as I said earlier, as if we were 1-2-0 up. Just not going to get that goal. You know what I mean? And so that's a concern. Another concern for me is, we've went out and signed all these players in the summer. So we've signed, if you look at the back four, we've signed a left back. We've barely seen him yet. We're still relying on Borna. We've signed two centre halves, and he's sticking James Sands in at centre half at the moment. I know Souttar's injured or has this personal thing. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but Ben Davies is surely worth a shout at some point. You know what I mean? To give him some game time. We've brought in, I thought Tillman would have started yesterday. No sign of him. I thought Lawrence was really poor yesterday. Apart from his goal, I thought he was really, really poor. The service to Cholak, again, really poor. And it just seems like we're, every now and again, like in the Eindhoven game, we're bringing on Scott Wright and folk are moaning, but you're like, well, who else is doing it? You know what I mean? And that's my concern. We've brought in all these players and none of them, apart from maybe Cholak and Tillman, have really done anything. Starting to have real concerns about our goalkeeper as well. I'm just not convinced. I don't know what it is about McLaughlin at this particular moment in time, but I don't know if it's because he knows he's number one now, but this is the most unconvincing I think I've ever seen McLaughlin. He always looked fairly assured and steady. Every time the ball's getting in the box now, I'm kind of panicking a wee bit because, and one thing McLaughlin was always fairly confident at was having the ball at his feet. I think he looks a bit panicky in that respect as well now. So, yeah, real concerns about where we're going and real concerns about Gio and interviews and stuff like that yesterday. I mean, I've seen him on Rangers TV yesterday saying, yeah, we started the game really well. I'm thinking, and what planet did we start? we didn't have a shot on target until the penalty. And what planet is that a good start to a game? And also, when the controversial things happen, I expect a Rangers manager to come out and call things out for what they are. So I expect a Rangers manager to come out and say those two red cards were shocking and it's cost us. Now, folk might say that it's, sour grapes or whatever, but you'll find most managers do that. It's part of the game. It's playing the game. You're putting it in referees' minds for the next game. By the way, you're due us, because you fucked up and cost us points the last time. So you're due us. I always remember I was watching, it was a Merseyside derby at Goodison, and the two teams were lined up in the tunnel. This was about 10 years ago. I think it was Gerrard and Phil Neville were the captains, and Jamie Carragher walked past. The referees at the front, two teams are lined up. Jamie Carragher was on the bench that day, and as he walked past the ref, he just said, Fellaini's fucking elbows, as if, watch him. Just putting it in the referee's mind. Just that's it. That's all you need to do. We're watching you and how you're going to referee this game because this guy jumps up and gives it a bit of that. And whenever Gio's asked about controversial things, he's always dead. Yeah, well, that happens. No, I expect more for a Rangers manager. I think Steven Gerrard would have called it out. I think the likes of Walter Smith in the past would have called those decisions out yesterday. And Gio at times just feels a bit too laid back when it comes to these things. I think, as I said, it's part of the game. I think you've got to play that part of the game. If you feel you've been hard done by, I think you've got to come out and say it in your interview. Robbie Nielsen was doing it today. You know what I mean? He called out the performance with Kevin Clancy today. It's part and parcel of it, and I expect a Rangers manager to do that.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And just before we move on to our next topic, just another word from one of our sponsors, Forest Precision Engineering, who are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they've been a massive commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. And we're obviously honoured that they're backing our pod. You can get them on www.forestprecisioneng.com. And you can also visit the Forest Precision Executive Lounge at Ibrox, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. And for more info on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. And just a reminder to everyone as well that you can get this podcast on all your usual providers, such as iTunes, YouTube and Spotify. Sort of moving on then, Gary, I'll come to you. Glenn Kamara was someone who wasn't in the squad yesterday. Now, as far as we're led to believe, he wasn't injured. So it was either a tactical decision, or what I'm starting to think is he might possibly be away. We've seen in the last 24 hours he's been linked with a move with Nice. There's also Premier League interest there from down south as well. What was your thoughts on that, and do you think it's time to cash in on Kamara?
Oh, this will be a short and sweet answer for you. If he's known Van Bronckhorst's plans, then we need to move him on, because he is an asset. We should be able to get a decent fee for him. I'm actually surprised that he signed the long-term contract. Was it last year? Because I thought he would have been one of the ones that they would have seen as being able to get a decent fee for. The thing that frustrates me with Kamara is we know he's a good player, but Van Bronckhorst has been playing him as a number 10. He's never a number 10. He's a deep line midfielder, can keep the ball, and we've got loads of them. And yeah, I'd say even if Davis hadn't stayed the extra year, he maybe would have kept Kamara. But say if Van Bronckhorst doesn't fancy him or prefers other players, he's back in the pecking order, and it's definitely time we should cash in, because we should be signing players that are going to improve our team, those sitting in the stand.
No, absolutely. In terms of that, you've obviously said there, and I completely agree with you that we've got too many similar players like Kamara in the midfield. What kind of player do you think we should be looking for? For me, I know we've been linked with Evander from Midtjylland. He's kind of a box-to-box player that can also go forward, he can defend, he can kind of do everything. I think that's the exact type of midfielder we need to play alongside Lundstram at the moment. Is that someone that you'd be looking at?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's certainly a goal-scoring midfielder, box-to-box player. But I think we've been crying out for that for the last God knows how long. I think we've constantly just kept signing defensive midfielders. And the odd player comes in who seems attacking, and it doesn't do enough. I think Hadji potentially could be that guy, but if he's it seems to be quite injury prone, and are we going to get 60 games a season out of Hadji? I don't know. But yeah, I'd certainly be looking for somebody that can complement Lundstram. If Lundstram's the main man, somebody can complement him and get some goals from midfield.
No, absolutely. I think the Hadji there, obviously, it's been bad that he's been out for the period that he has, but I think he's a number 10, and I think that is his best position, despite the fact that both Rangers managers that signed him seem to think he's a right winger. But I think as well, I think we are looking for that sort of box-to-box player. Someone like Evander, I'm not saying we will sign him, but having seen him a couple of times for Midtjylland in European games, I think he looks pretty decent. He fits that kind of profile of the club. He's young, he's a Brazilian, although in fairness, never really had any luck with Brazilians at Ibrox.
Any successful Brazilians in Scottish football, even World Cup winners have came in and done nothing.
Yeah, I mean, so it's, hopefully if he does sign, he doesn't carry that Brazilian curse with him. But he's certainly someone that I'd be looking at. Colin, over to you now. Kamara, should we keep or sell?
I mean, I think Kamara was one of those ones, it's part of the model, isn't it? Buy cheap and make a profit. So, yeah, I mean, I think we always felt that this team was going to get broken up this summer, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes. And if he goes for, what they're talking about, 10 million, did you say? What did we get him for, 50 grand? That's excellent business. So as much I like Kamara, I'd be sad to see him go, but it's part of the model. It's part of the trading model that Rangers have we've been criticising the club for so long that we weren't being successful at this. Bringing players in cheap and selling them on for a profit. If Kamara does go, that'll be Patterson, Bassey, Aribo, and Kamara all away for a really decent amount of money. And it'll be good to see that the AGM. I'm sure they'll be reporting that the financial situation is certainly improved. So that's something that Rangers need to do. That's the market we operate in. We don't have access to the sort of money that's down south with TV revenues and stuff like that. So we have to find a trading model that brings us on talent cheap, and we develop that talent and move them on at a profit. So yeah, as I said, I'd be sad to see him go, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does go because it's part of the model. In terms of replacement, I'm going to piss a lot of people off here. I thought Lewis Ferguson was worth a punt. I really did. I don't get this snobbery and hatred towards signing players for other Scottish clubs. It's, to me, he was one of the better midfielders outside the top two. Those are the sort of players that Rangers used to take a punt on back in the day. Thinking another Ferguson, Ian. We signed him for St Mirren. Those are the types of players that we used to sign. I know his nephew and his dad kind of pissed some people off within the Rangers support. I mean, I don't like what Barry says in the record and all the rest of it now and again, but it doesn't affect what I think of him because he's one of the best fucking Rangers players I've seen in my lifetime. I loved Barry Ferguson at Ibrox, so I thought Lewis Ferguson was worth a punt. You're dealing with Aberdeen. It would probably been difficult to get him, but the fact that he's went to Serie A tells me that he's a good player, and I think he would have done well at Rangers. But yeah, I do think we need the sort of players you're talking about, a wee bit more attacking minded. I do think in that midfield we have a lot of players who are very similar in what they do, and that's maybe part of the problem that Rangers have at the moment. We've not got that player that can split open a defence with a pass or turn defenders and get in behind. Hadji can maybe do that, but obviously he's not fit at the moment. Arfield, I think, is capable of that, but he's not going to be starting week in, week out anymore. Those days are gone, I think. So, yeah, we do need a different type of player in the middle of the park because Davis, Jack, Kamara, Lundstrom, they're all much of a muchness. So we need something a wee bit different in there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it will be interesting to see what the next 9 or 10 days or so of the transfer window have in store, especially given that this time on Wednesday we could possibly have an extra few quid in the bank and we may as well just move on to Wednesday. I mean, it's a massive game, isn't it? Champions League playoff, PSV away in Eindhoven. I'm buzzing. I'm leaving for Amsterdam tomorrow, so I'll need to be on my best behaviour for everyone's sake, including my own. But Gary, I mean, in terms of the finances, we know it's big. We're talking about probably a £40 million game, but just in terms of the club as well and trying to compete with the best, how big is this game on Wednesday?
It's massive. It's where we want to be, isn't it? I'm not saying we're going to win it, but you want to be in the Champions League, and it's the best club tournament in the world. It's kind of like the memories you've got for over the years of these big teams coming to Ibrox and things like that, and really, really good nights. Some decent scalps we've taken as well in the Champions League. I think if at the start of all this, before we kicked the ball, if you were to say we're 90 minutes away from just winning a game to get there, I think you'd have probably taken it. So I don't think we're favourites, but as Colin touched on earlier, the underdog tag seems to suit us a bit, so I'm hoping we can create another good night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you touched on it earlier, Gary, that this team, it seems that they're made for Europe, and that sort of continued from Gerrard into Van Bronckhorst. One thing that I wanted to ask as well, Gary, obviously we've been used to having the second leg at home, and we know what that big Ibrox crowd can do. I thought they were brilliant again last Tuesday, and obviously, we couldn't quite get the win, but as you said, we're 90 minutes away from the group stages. Do you think that that's going to have an adverse impact on us, having that second leg away where we don't need to win in the 90 minutes, but we certainly need to win on the night to go through, obviously?
I would think it would, to be honest. Like, I know what you're saying, and when we done the preview for the Leipzig game and things like that, you were so confident because we were at home that we're going to overturn it. But I think surely these players didn't need the fans there to lift themselves. Just as professionals, they know that some of these guys like Golds and Tav, when they came to Rangers, they wouldn't even be thinking about Champions League football, and they're 90 minutes away from it. And John McLaughlin was playing with Sunderland in League One a couple of years ago. He could potentially play Champions League football. Absolute bonkers. So if they can't get themselves up for that, knowing that it's just a win, that's all we need to do is just win that game. And if it means going doing extra time or penalties, so be it. But I don't think where it's played matters. They don't need to win the game. And I don't think there should be a team talk even needed for that.
No, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, I think if it's a game that you don't want to play on Wednesday or anything like that, then it's a club that you shouldn't be at. But I don't think, as you say, the players will have any issues getting up for it. And it's going to be a great occasion. And obviously, hopefully, we can get the job done. Colin, sort of coming on to you, how much are you looking forward to this, and what do you think the team will be as well?
Oh, in terms of the team, I'd be, because he's been so hard to predict Gio this season, obviously with the new players coming in. It really is. It's difficult.
But maybe then what would your team be then? Because let's face it, it's actually stupid trying to predict Gio's team. I would have to sit and think it out. But I mean, in terms of the actual game itself, I mean, it's huge. I mean, obviously, I slightly disagree with Gary in terms of the Champions League is where you want to be. I think finance in football now is such that I'm actually a wee bit worried about getting to the Champions League, because we could technically potentially be on the end of a couple of horses. We've seen Celtic get a couple of horses in the Champions League. I've noticed a few teams that Rangers have played in the Europa League go up there like Michelin and all the rest of it, taking absolute tonkins. The main reason Rangers want to be in the Champions League, let's face it, is the money. That's what we're looking at. We're looking at the pot of cash that's waiting for us, and that's fine. Given where we've been just sort of 5-10 years ago and the recovery of the club, that's probably what's needed. And when you think of the money that's come in from the player sales, we've 25 million for Barassi, 16 for Patterson. You're probably talking the best. If Kamara goes, you're talking about the best part of 40-50 million there. And if we get the 20-30 million for the Champions League, then it really helps in getting the club back on its feet financially and in a better position to challenge Celtic moving forward. But I genuinely think the Europa League is our level, and I think we've shown that over the last 3 or 4 years. When Gerrard first arrived, getting to the group stages was like, oh my God, we're in the group stages of European competition, because of where we'd been the last 4 or 5 years before that. Now it's like, I was looking at the pots the other day there. If we don't make it on Wednesday, we're in pot 1, which is like, it's just like pot 1 of any European tournament. You're like, oh my God. And you're actually looking at the teams in pot 2, 3 and 4 and thinking there's no real glamour ties there, because all the teams that you want to play for the big European nights are in pot 1 with us. But what it does mean is you've got a better chance of progressing and stuff like that. So from a football point of view, I would be quite happy to see Rangers in the Europa League again, because we've had so many great nights there over the last 4 or 5 years. But from a financial point of view, I think it would be better, obviously, if we reach the Champions League, and it would really help in the recovery of the club. So, yeah, it's a massive night. We've not started the season well. I think that's obvious. Slightly disappointing that we didn't get the win last week, but it's 50-50. It's on a knife edge, you know what I mean? That's the thing about the second leg of any sort of game. If you're going into it and it's even, it's all to play for on the night, And we've got some good results. We've got 2 good results over there previously. That famous night when Bobby Russell scored, and that night when Albert's got the winner with about 10 minutes to go. So it's a place we've been and won before. I'm not overly confident, I have to say. I don't think Rangers are in the greatest place at the moment, but
what better opportunity have they got to sort of turn it around? One thing I will say, if we don't get a result, I think Gio will start to feel the heat. Questions will start to be asked, but it's a great opportunity over there. Winner takes all, essentially. And if they're into the Champions League, then it's another at least 3 nights at Ibrox where we're going to see top class European opposition.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. I mean, I know your point there about being in, from a football point of view, you'd maybe rather be in the Europa League, but for me, it's always the Champions League. I'm personally, I'm not scared of coming up against a Man City or whoever. I think as a Rangers fan, it's something that you've got to embrace. You want to be competing against them at that level. I think obviously Celtic have taken a couple of patients off teams like that, and even last year in Europe, off reasonable teams, but not world class teams. But I think if you look at that under both managers, they just played the one style of football. If you do look at Gio, we have said that he's probably suited for those European nights where he's tactically fluid, he can change it in game. And for me, this is kind of like, we've been promoted, we've won the league, we've won a cup, suppose getting to the Europa League final as well. And I think now getting back...
Yeah, it's the next natural step. I'd agree with that, yeah. But I just, since the last time we were in there, and I'm old enough to remember 92, 93, when we came within a goal to get into the final. The footballing landscape was very different back then. Teams like Rangers had a chance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we do now. You're up against. You're not just up against big clubs. You're up against like Arab states. That's what you're playing against. You're playing. You're
multi.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, when you look at all the stuff that's happening at Barcelona at the moment, I've been reading a lot about that. Right, and Messi's contract. If he'd hit all the levers in it in terms of, winning this trophy and that trophy, and if he'd done that between 2017 and 2021, he'd have earned 650 million. And it's just that's what you're up against. European football used to be, when you played a team for Holland, it was 11 Dutchmen. You played a team for the old Yugoslavia, 11 Yugoslavians. It's not like that now. You're playing against super clubs. They have billions behind them. And I just don't think clubs like Rangers and Celtic, and I get a good few others, can really compete at that level. And yeah, it's where you want to be. But I genuinely think I'd prefer to see us getting to a, last 32, quarter final, semi-final, maybe even another final, who knows, than, hoping to finish third and drop down. Because I think that's the realistic target if Rangers get to the Champions League, isn't it? Finishing third and dropping into the Europa. So, yeah, it'd be good to get... I mean, there's a couple of teams in there that I've never seen before at Ibrox, like Real Madrid and stuff like that. You want to see these teams at Ibrox, but yeah, I do feel Europa League's more relevant, I must admit.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, you do make a couple of fair points there, Colin. Gary, coming on to you then, Colin did touch on it earlier about, don't want to be too negative, but let's face it, it is Rangers, and if we don't go through on Wednesday, the manager will... he will feel the heat. No saying he's going to get the sack, but, he will be under a wee bit of pressure. The one thing that is quite concerning for me, if we don't go through on Wednesday, is that will now be the fourth time in the last year that we've had a clear route to the Champions League. And we've not done it last year, obviously, with Malmo. If we got through that, we would have got Ludogorets, who, I think we would have beat, winning the league, or not winning the league last season, just cost us that group stage place. The Europa League final has done that, and then obviously if we don't do it on Wednesday, that would be the case. If that did happen, 3 or 4 of those missed opportunities would be under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. Do you think that would put him under a wee bit of pressure?
I don't think the Champions League would put him under pressure, but I certainly think if he lost at the weekend or dropped more points at the weekend, I think there'd be pressure. Even a defeat against Celtic in a couple of weeks' time, regardless of what your score is at the weekend. But it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, because what we then want to do is there'll be a wee bit of daylight between us and Celtic, and to me that game's really must win now. It's going to be a strange couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. No, a strange couple of weeks and a big couple of weeks. So just before we go then, gentlemen, may as well get your score predictions for the game on Wednesday. I'll start off and be uber positive. I'll say 2-1, because we're definitely going to concede, because we've got a thing for doing that now, but I just think that I've just got a good feeling about it. I just think we're going to do it. So I'll say 2-1, Gary. What about yourself?
Penalties after a one each.
For God's sake, you can't kill us. Well, hopefully we win in the penalties this time.
Of course, qualifying.
Hopefully. Colin, what about yourself?
I think if we're qualifying, I'm with Gary. I think it's via penalties. I'm with you, Craig, in terms of I think we're conceding. So to win, I think we need to score 2. So, yeah, I think penalties gives us an opportunity, extra time with penalties. But as I said, we've went there before. They'd never lost for a number of years in Eindhoven when we went there in 78, I think it was, and we beat them 3-2. Then, as I said, that sort of 99 season, we went over there and Albert's got the winner. So you never know. And we have got a decent record against Dutch sides in Europe. You would hope, given Gio's background and where he's from, that he knows what he's going into and he'll have a plan. But it was sort of, I was thinking about this today actually, and I was thinking if we go out on Wednesday night and then, we'll probably win the Ross County game, that's a given. But and then we lose against Celtic, it's probably as close to like Walter Smith had a period in sort of mid-90s when he lost against Falkirk in the League Cup, and he lost to AEK Athens in the Champions League, and then we lost to Celtic, and he was under proper pressure then. And I think, if we go out the Champions League and then we lose to Celtic and we're 5 points behind, I think Gio's position will know that he'll be under threat, but he'll start to feel the heat. He'll start to feel a wee bit uncomfortable because it's 5 points, it's recoverable, but then you're already in a position of you can't lose another game and make it 8 points. You know what I mean? You're already we can't have any more errors. So yeah, a big few days coming up, and it could be season defining.
No, absolutely, it could be. And just lastly, we've got another message from one of our sponsors, Football Prizes. They've got their weekly competitions, and if you go onto the Gersnet Twitter page at Gersnet Online, you can see what this week's item is. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thanks for going easy on me on my debut hosting. Just as another wee reminder, you can obviously go on the Gersnet Twitter at Gersnet Online and the forum at gersnet.co.uk. And also as well, we'll be coming back on Friday again, and it'll be Scott hosting, just as he was last week, with Stuart Weir to preview that Ross County game at home. So look out for that one on Friday evening. But to end there, thanks very much for joining. I've been Craig Gray, joined by Colin Armstrong and Gary Valentine, and this has been the Gersnet Podcast. Thanks very much and good night.